The Eagles certainly were not expecting this, as just after beating the Cowboys in Week 1, they got some unexpected news that could change everything for them going into Week 2, as the Chiefs' offense just suffered a major blow, while it seems like the Eagles' defense will be getting a major boost after the latest update on Jalen Carter. Plus, Jordan Davis silenced the critics as he seems to be breaking out before our very eyes. And also, could the Eagles make this big change in the secondary? Well, let's talk about that and all the other latest Eagles news starting right now. The stage is officially set for the Eagles and Chiefs Super Bowl rematch, as both teams have officially made it through their first test of the season, with the Birds, of course, getting a tough, grinded-out win at home in the season opener against Dallas, while the Chiefs came up just short down in Brazil and took their first loss to their division rival Chargers since back in 2021. And now, all focus for both teams shifts to their Week 2 matchup in Arrowhead next Sunday. And of course, as Super Bowl rematches go, there's no doubt that it's going to be a super fun game. And you guys know I'm going to be covering all the news and storylines leading into that one, so make sure you subscribe and you turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. And also, if you love the Eagles and want to support this channel, make sure you hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds and it helps me out a ton. But now, obviously, with the Eagles and Chiefs set to face off next week, Friday night was an interesting opportunity for Philly to just gather some intel and get a little bit of a preview of what they're going to be squaring off against next. And as far as first impressions go, I'd have to say it was a pretty shaky one for the 2025 version of this Chiefs team his entire career. And for the offense, it was not great either, as it looked like a mess at times, especially in that first half where they only mustered 6 points on 2 field goals and did not convert a single third down through those first 2 quarters. And while they did eventually get rolling in the second half, defense to make up for it and pull out the win. So it definitely seems like the Chiefs are very much vulnerable and a work in progress as they get set for this Super Bowl rematch in Week 2, as are the Eagles, by the way, just judging by the way they played on Thursday. But unfortunately for KC, they did get some big news coming out of this game that potentially changes everything for them this season. And for the Eagles, this matchup may have just gotten a lot easier, as on just the third play of the game, Chiefs' young star receiver Xavier Worthy went down after colliding with Travis Kelce, and he did not return after being diagnosed with a shoulder injury. And according to multiple doctors and sources that I've seen, it seems like this injury might be pretty serious.
Best and worst cases on Worthy. The video suggests a dislocation. Best case is non-operative treatment, average 3 weeks to return, but re-injury rate is very high at about 50%. Worst case, he has a large tear or fracture and he shuts it down for surgery. That decision depends partly on the extent of damage, partly on personal risk tolerance, but he is young and on a rookie deal that has to factor in.
Now, that clip is from medical doctor Deepak Chona, who is a sports surgeon and has been featured on top networks like ESPN and NBC. So I'd say he's a pretty credible source. So with Worthy now set for an MRI very soon, it seems like we're probably pretty close to getting an official diagnosis on the injury. Again, best case, Worthy's back in a few weeks with a high chance of re-injury, but also there's a pretty solid chance that the injury's pretty serious and he's going to miss significant time, which, you know, that sucks. I mean, you never want to see anybody get injured, especially not a serious injury, so definitely hoping it's not too bad and he can come back this season. But that said, it sounds like there's essentially no chance of Worthy being able to play against the Eagles next week. So, you know, that certainly does make things a lot easier on Philly's defense, considering that Worthy is possibly the Chiefs' best receiver and easily one of their most important offensive weapons. I mean, obviously, Worthy is a guy that has game-breaking speed and a versatile skill set, and going back to last year, the Chiefs took advantage of that in a variety of different ways. As like Johnny Page pointed out back before the Super Bowl, Worthy was often the X factor of that Kansas City Chiefs offense, as they lined him up all over the field, and he was constantly shifting, being put in motion, or just trying to cause confusion in one way or another. And of course, he also just has the ability to burn you down the field and stretch the defense both vertically and horizontally. So again, for the Chiefs to not have him going into Week 2 definitely does make things a whole lot easier on the Eagles defense. That said, they still obviously got to deal with other talented players like Travis Kelce and Hollywood Brown, who, by the way, had 10 catches for almost 100 yards on Friday night. And of course, the biggest threat of all is Patrick Mahomes. And if you watched the game Friday, you know that he made some absolutely incredible vintage Mahomes plays. Like, he did it all, whether it was impressive runs or some crazy impossible throws in that second half. So obviously, he's always a challenge, and the Eagles are going to need to be ready for it. And I'd say the defense, and specifically cornerback Adoree Jackson, must be much better than we saw in Week 1 against Dallas, because, let's face it, giving up 5 catches on 7 targets, all of which were first downs, by the way, for an average of 20.6 yards a catch and 103 total yards, is just not going to cut it.
I'm going to throw up. I think I'm going to throw up.
Don't throw up.
I mean, I know I talked about it on Friday, but I just could not have imagined a worse Eagles debut for Adoree Jackson. Like, he was just terrible. Yet, somehow, when asked about his performance, he somehow gave himself a passing grade.
I give myself a C. Room for improvement. Things that I did well, things that I can correct and get better at for the next week. So I'm not gonna hang my head or hang it too high or too low at the end of the day, regardless if I play good or I didn't. It's always things that I can find to get better at and do better at. Yeah, I give myself like a C. C's good degrees, but because we won, so I give myself a C.
I don't know, man. Like, if that's a C, then I don't even want to imagine what an F looks like, because, I mean, how much worse could it get? And honestly, I know it was just one game, but if I were Vic Fangio, I'd honestly already be considering other options at the cornerback position.
I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
I mean, let's face it, Jackson is a 9-year vet, so at this point, he is what he is, and I just don't envision him getting that much better. And personally, I would much rather see Jakorian Bennett out there, because he's somebody who's still young. He obviously just got here a few weeks ago, so he's still got a ton of room to grow. I think his physical traits are better than Jackson, and when he was out there, whether it was in the preseason or even in Week 1 for those few plays, he just seemed to have a lot tighter coverage than Jackson did. So I'm personally hoping for the Eagles to make that switch soon, especially if Jackson disappoints again next week. Or there's also the possibility of Howie Roseman making another move and bringing in somebody from the outside, which that's something that I'm going to talk about in a future video. And I'm actually curious to know what you guys think the Eagles should do at cornerback, so comment down below. And I'm actually going to be picking one commenter to shout out in my next video, so go do that right now. At the very least, though, at least we know the rest of the Eagles secondary is pretty darn good, and as long as they hold up their end of the bargain, that could help to minimize the struggles of Adoree Jackson or whoever else is out there at cornerback too. Speaking of which, even though it wasn't his greatest game per se, Quinyon Mitchell was still pretty darn good Friday night, as aside from a couple mistakes like the dropped interception and the 34-yard pass interference penalty in the first quarter, Q locked down Cowboys receivers CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens all night long, as he held them to a combined 4 catches on 9 targets for only 30 yards, so shout out to him. And he wasn't the only Eagles defender who balled out against the Cowboys, as in the absence of Jalen Carter, 4th-year defensive tackle Jordan Davis might have just had the best game of his entire career.
Without question, Jordan Davis played his best game as an Eagle. There's very little. Here he is against Tyler Smith. Pushes the pocket, gets his hands up, tips the ball. I mean, it was one good play after another. Here he is on the zero technique, playing off of Tyler Booker right here, back and swallows the back. He did that a bunch. But it was his pass rush and the volume of plays that he played last night. That was, here he is, just flattening down the line of scrimmage. All right, getting to Javonte Williams. But these pass rushes are legit right here. Like here he is beating the center right now. Now watch him bend and turn and chase Dak. Almost gets there. I know, in fact, he should have gotten there. Here he is right now. Like this should have been the Eagles' lone sack last night. Like it's excellent. Powers into BB right here. He's got Dak. Like this is going to keep him up at night. He should have 1 sack right there. He's got Dak right there. He's got to get him to the ground. But it happens. That was great. It was encouraging. How many snaps Jordan Davis played. He's in better shape. The lightest he's ever been. And it showed last night. He was a force.
Shout out to Baldy for the breakdown there. And yeah, I mean, just watching that film, it's clear just how good Jordan Davis was in that game. And it wasn't just as a run stopper, although he was very good in that area too, but as a pass rusher, he was fantastic as well, which is just so exciting to see and a testament to just how much work JD has put in to get better in that area over this past year. I mean, it's clear that losing all that weight and getting in great shape paid off. Obviously, he just played a career-high 87% of snaps on Thursday, and he was great the whole game. So I know it was just one game, but it looks like JD could potentially be breaking out before our very eyes and silencing all the critics in the process, as there are still people out there calling him a bust, which is crazy. So I'm definitely excited for him, and I mean, could you also imagine how scary the Birds' pass rush could be if Jordan Davis is able to keep this up when Jalen Carter gets back? Like, the interior of the Eagles' defensive line would just be unstoppable. Speaking of which, we just got an update on the whole Jalen Carter situation after his viral spitting incident with Dak Prescott, as Jarrett Bell and Mike Freeman of USA Today reported Saturday afternoon that the NFL is not planning on suspending Jalen Carter for what he did. And obviously for the Eagles, that is fantastic news, as Carter is obviously, a huge part of their defense, and having him back out there should make that entire unit significantly better than it was on Thursday night. But that said, I'm sure Nick Sirianni and Vic Fangio absolutely ripped into him on Friday, and he'll probably still face some sort of punishment from the team. Because if you'll remember, going back to last year, Carter was actually benched for the first drive of the Eagles game against the Falcons because he was late to a meeting during that week. So I'm guessing we could see something similar here, or maybe they'll punish him in another way. As they should, by the way, because what he did was just inexcusable. But that said, again, it is definitely great news that he's not going to be suspended. Moving on though, the Eagles have made a flurry of roster moves in recent days, as in addition to obviously signing Adoree Smith on Friday and placing Ben Van Sumeren on IR, they also brought back Eli Ricks to the practice squad and released offensive lineman Holland Pierce a while back. Then on Friday, they officially signed wide receiver Javon Baker to the practice squad and released rookie edge rusher Antoine Powell-Ryland, which honestly, I don't love that, and I hope they bring APR back soon because I think he's got a lot of talent. And then on Saturday, they also waived offensive lineman Kenyon Green from the active roster, so I'd assume they try and bring him back on the practice squad as well. Obviously, none of these moves are too crazy, and I would expect to see more shuffling in the days leading up to the Chiefs game. Speaking of which, the Eagles are currently 1.5-point favorites there after the Chiefs loss and the Worthy injury. And overall, I'm just looking forward to that game for obvious reasons. I mean, it's a Super Bowl rematch, and it's just another chapter in the Jalen Hurts versus Patrick Mahomes saga. So I can't wait to watch it, and you guys can give me your early impressions of that game down in the comments below. Again, I'm going to be picking one commenter to shout out in my next video, so go do that right now. And also, while you're at it, make sure you guys subscribe, because I got a ton of stuff planned coming over this next week in the lead up to that Chiefs game. So again, make sure you subscribe and you turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. And also drop a like down below to show some support, because it really does help me out a ton. Let's see if we can get to at least 500 likes today. And also, if you do want to watch another Eagles video going over their win over the Cowboys and the signing of Adoree Smith, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.